Oh, Bobby Brown. Let's thank God for Joe Jackson laying down the law. That's why y'all need fathers. All right, guys, let's get into this story. Bobby Brown, y'all know Bobby Brown. We don't need to go much into him. Bobby Brown, right here. Back in the 90s, this guy was in this pop scene. He was like, what all these ladies were looking for. He was smooth, looking good, and he was just at the top of his game, and tons of celebrities were looking at him. And he was saying that one time he had to decide between Whitney Houston or Janet Jackson. And he wanted Janet Jackson over Whitney Houston. But there was one problem with that. The thing about Joe Jackson is that he was a real man. And you guys are going to see why y'all need fathers. When a lot of these women say that I don't need no man, you're going to see why you're going to need a man. You need a man to be a protector and a provider for the family. Not only beating up crazy guys that come into the house, but also protecting crazy guys from coming into the house and the family. Because Joe Jackson knew Bobby Brown. He knew him very well, and he said no way to Bobby Brown. And y'all can see what happened to Whitney Houston. Y'all saw what happened to Whitney Houston. He could tell right from the beginning. Joe Jackson knows how men behave. And Joe Jackson knows that all guys are trying to get into these ladies' pants. Joe Jackson knows that. He's just like any other guy. He knows all the guys are trying to get to the same end goal. But which guy you're going to let you in is the one that's not going to cause you all this problem, because they're all trying to get the same thing. But which one is going to bring value into the family and not take away from the family? And Joe Jackson, I remember when I was in grade school and I was watching the Michael Jackson, the autobiography of the Jackson Five, and we would see Joe Jackson portrayed as an excessive disciplinarian, almost to abusive levels. And when we were watching that video, my dad looked at me and he said, "See, son, a lot of people will say that Joe Jackson was abusive, but Joe Jackson was being the right father by disciplining his children. And look at what he did. Joe Jackson, he dropped his own career, decided to get married, get a 9-to-5 job to support his family. And then when he noticed that there was some value in his family, he decided that he was going to put his own money up to get his children to record music and go into a very competitive field of music. We're talking about black entertainment way back in the 40s and 50s. Nobody was really listening to black people. But he put his money up, took the initiative, disciplined them to learn all these different instruments. Like, he had 10 children. He was still able to control 10 children. You could only do that if you have a family of 10. You can only do that when you have a strong father. So when you look at Joe Jackson here, he's not missing a beat. He's keeping eyes on all the children, even the daughters. That is why you need a strong father. Because if Joe Jackson was not a strong father, or he was not even present, if guys like him, these Pookie and Ray Rays, even though Bobby Brown was an entertainer making money, he was still a Pookie and Ray Ray in Joe Jackson's eyes. Still a Pookie and Ray Ray was his mentality. And he was going to protect Janet Jackson at all costs from these type of men. This is why y'all need a man and a father. Not after your your child is in the teenage years, that's when you decide that you're gonna look for some beta male sympathy to go ahead and try and wife up. You need a strong father like Joe Jackson right from the beginning. And in the video, the autobiography, they try to make him look like a bad guy, but he was doing the right thing. And when my dad and I was watching that video, he was watching it with me, and he was explaining why Joe Jackson had to be so strict. He had a bigger vision. He was looking at the bigger picture. You see? So now, when Bobby Brown admits that he wanted Janet Jackson, and the one person that stood in the way was the father, Joe Jackson, and it was because Joe Jackson knew Bobby Brown was not good for the family and he was not good for Janet Jackson. You see, even though he was a disciplining father, he was gonna try and do whatever he can to keep these hoodlums from wifing up one of their daughters. And that's why y'all need a strong father to step in and stop them from all this nonsense. And you see a lot of these women getting young, getting pregnant in their teenage years or in their 20s, and they're not picking the right man that's going to be a father. Just they want to be a mother before they want to be a wife. The most important thing is you want to be a wife first, then a mother. When you're a wife, you're going to pick a man that's actually going to be a husband. Pick a man that's actually going to be a husband. Is Bobby Brown going to be a husband to your family that you're trying to create? We're talking about women here. Is Bobby Brown going to be the guy that you want, or do you want a man like Joe Jackson? A man that is selfless, that's ready to work and put money into his family, not bring all these drugs and all this nonsense into the family. Like, even look at the daughter. Bobby Brown's daughter died of an overdose. Because Bobby Brown was not a good father. He may have been a man, but he was not a good father. And you can see the wife dies, the daughter dies, everybody around dies except for Bobby Brown. He did not accomplish his goal as being a father to keep his family tight. And he didn't learn the lesson from Joe Jackson. And it was because of drugs got into his family. He brought all that issue into the family. So he had a big crush on Janet. Everything, her smile, her body, her dance move, her little laugh. We loved each other's company, but we didn't have a long of relationship. The reason me and Janet broke it off is because she couldn't be with a man like myself. And thanks to the father instilling that vision that you're not gonna get some guy from the hood. Even though you take a guy out of the hood, he is still got the hood lifestyle. Her father wouldn't allow her to be with somebody like me. Janet was the crush of my life. Bobby went on to meet Whitney Houston afterwards on Soul Train, and the couple was married from 1992 before divorcing in 2007. Houston died of an overdose in 2012 because Bobby Brown introduced Whitney Houston, a lady from the church. She was brought up by the church. She's a preacher's daughter, pastor's daughter. And Bobby Brown, the bad influence, came in and tried to bring this drugs and all this stuff that was anti. And I'm surprised that a pastor's daughter didn't step in to stop somebody from Bobby Brown trying to marry her. Because at that time, men actually had a role. They had a strong role before 1965. They were able to tell their daughters, no, you cannot marry this guy. And that situation we hear, man, look at here. Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson, right here, married to the mother. And they had a long relationship. You see, they were trying to accuse him of abusing Michael. Now, some people, some of the sons said he was abusing, and some of the other sons were saying that he wasn't abusing. But look at how Michael Jackson turned out to be. And you could tell Michael Jackson had a father. He was hardworking. You can't get a mother cannot teach their son on how to be a father. Only a father can teach their son how to be a father. So look at Michael Jackson. He's hardworking. He's committed. He had his children too, and these children didn't get into none of that drugs, none of that alcohol. And unfortunately, Michael Jackson, he died at such a young age that he wasn't able to see his children grow up. But they would have turned out well. Even now, you don't hear anything about Michael Jackson's children doing any type of crazy stuff because the same thing that he learned from his father is what he instilled to his children right now. You don't see none of them acting crazy. But look at Bobby's children. Even the daughter was picking a Pookie and Ray Ray to wife up, and he didn't approve it, and he was a hoodlum, and he wasn't approving it. But look, because you were living such an alternative lifestyle, even your daughter did all this, and then eventually killed herself. So here he is. He was starting a family. He's look, Joseph Walter. All right, brother Joseph Walter Jackson moved his father from Oakland, California, to East Chicago, Indiana. Right, and then he was a Golden Glove Award winner, 17 years old, and then he met the woman of his dreams, and they got married, and they moved to a two-bedroom house in Gary, Ontario. Gary, Ohio, Gary, Indiana, and that would have 10 children with the Jackson, and he was able to control all 10 of them. And then he noticed that some of his children had talent, so he decided to put his own money up, guys. In the 1940s and 1960s, this was when Motown just started, and it's thanks Motown needs to thank Joe Jackson for putting them on the map. Thanks to him. Well, they also had the Supremes, but the Jackson Five would not have been the Jackson Five without Joe Jackson being a manager, controlling those juveniles to do all those songs and make it through all of their rehearsals because of Joe Jackson. If it wasn't for Joe Jackson, without a father, there'll be no vision. And we gotta thank Joe Jackson and not try to minimize what he did into becoming an abusive father. When watch that video, the autobiography with your father or any male person in your family, and see what their interpretation. Because all their interpretation was saying that he was doing the right thing. He was not being abusive. He was doing the right thing by disciplining them. Nowadays, you can't do none of that same type of disciplining. And look at how all the children are out here killing each other out on the street. And you can look in the black community, a lot of ghost towns of where black people would have lived if it wasn't for them killing each other. What do y'all think, man? Y'all think Joseph Jackson was a little too abusive, or was he the right father? In my opinion, he was the right father, and my father considered him to be the right father because that's the only way you would have seen the Jackson Five and also all of their children having great families because Joe Jackson was there to prevent all that nonsense from happening. Anyways, guys, what do y'all think? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. That's all I gotta say about this video.